in part of the class that we're going to be teaching that's coming up, we're going to start with the very, very basic building blocks of the things that Nethra and I were doing. And we're going to build up to, there's going to be a moment, probably close to halfway, maybe a little bit later in the class, where we're going to start talking about, well, how do you actually provide empathy? We call it empathy at the sharp end, where how do you actually do this when the other person is actively approaching you with aggression or with a conflict, and how do you do it actually not just in a controlled environment but in a challenging, difficult situation. And we're not going to start there, we're obviously going to build up into it. And we have an entire approach that's centered on trauma response, on tolerance and empathy, on how to actually navigate those. And as Nethra was just saying, oftentimes it's the answer is never, oh, it happens in 5 minutes in the conversation. You have just the trick to be able to turn this entire thing around. It's something, the way we approach empathy and having these conversations is with a goal that the nature of the relationship between you and the other person is going to change to be a more permanent one based more on empathy and being able to share what's real for you and have the other person respond in kind. And that's what we're going to build up to over the course of our class. And I just want to take a moment to talk a little bit more about it because we're very, very quickly approaching time. But we're going to have a couple of more minutes. And I think Nethra said she can stay and answer more questions. But so part of what we do at the Listening Lab is that we're going to have this class available soon for anyone who wants to do this. It's open not just for people who are individuals. If you want to take this class as a couple or in a partnership or with a friend or a romantic relationship or with family, that is also very much okay. And the thing that I wanted to note is that you're not going to probably be paired together if you do that as a group, is that we're actually going to split you up and have people let you talk to everybody individually and practice some of those basic building blocks before we actually start creating a more challenging situation. But part of our class, what we're trying to do is not just teach you all of the skills and everything that you need to have and instill the right mindset, but actually create a supportive community group in the class where you actually develop a shared language together, you understand the same ideas together, and you can actually support each other through kind of the thick and thin of life. As you may practice a couple of things in class that you may want to try out in the real world, and then have the class the next week to be able to come back to and say, here's what I tried, here's what happened, what does everybody think? And we'll have time to actually get into and debrief what's actually happening, how are people applying these skills, how to change them, and how to make them better and actually fit. The other thing, Nathan can talk about this a little bit more, is that we also do individual coaching for people as well. So Nethra, I would wonder if you wanted to take a couple minutes to say more.
Yes, so there are two parts, and you can actually taste both through the workshop. So we'll have an 8-week course. We'll meet once a week. And as a part of that course, what we try to do is pair you up with each other to have what in the sort of NVC world is called empathy buddies, which is that you will get together with someone outside class and have, a 30-minute or 20-minute call where one person speaks and the other person listens, so that you can practice your listening skills and also get the experience of being heard. One of the most amazing things that we've seen in our class, well, two things. One is that people have a space to practice their difficult conversations outside of their difficult conversations with people they're not in conflict with, which is a unique experience because you actually get to mess up, right? You get to show up and say, hey, I'm a jerk, and not worry about it. Or you're a jerk and not worry about it. Because then you figure out, what was going on there. And then what we've seen is that slowly, over time, when we taught the class at Stanford last year, people started to practice these skills in class, get an experience of what it felt like when it worked really well, with people with whom they were not in conflict with. And then they went out and tried it with their family, with their colleagues, with their romantic partners. And then they would come back to us and tell us what happened. And then we would debrief and we would unpack what went wrong. And over time, the amazing thing that happened is that people in the class also started using those skills with each other. And over the course of several weeks, suddenly there was a deep sense that many people had that I could actually walk into this class and know that I'm going to be heard, because there was X amount of people who were listening with deep skill and intention. And a number of my clients have, told me, for instance, like, I really wish I had someone I could talk to and just say what's in my heart and know for sure that I was not going to be given advice, I was not going to be interrupted. And the beautiful thing is that the community of the classroom actually gives you access to people like that. So those are two benefits that we've seen. And the third benefit we've seen is that a lot of people come to our classes because they have this deep desire to improve their communication, and also an experience that they're the only ones trying and the other parties are not on board. And there's an immense sense of loneliness that can come with that. And over time, we've seen a number of people, really come to us and say, like, I don't feel like I matter. Like, I'm the one doing all the work. And that has given me the experience that I don't actually matter. My needs don't matter. But over the course of our workshops and our classes, people have accessed that sense of mattering inside themselves. And that in itself has started to really change their dynamics with other people, which might mean drawing boundaries. It might mean saying, I'm not going to have a conversation with you until you can be in a place where you can speak to me with kindness. So that has happened as well. And those boundary drawing processes have also really improved relationships. And so at the end of our classes, a lot of people have said, I'm now going into situations I would have avoided so much. And now I'm coming to them with a sense of empowerment, which has been the dream that Yuri and I have had to provide to people. And the last thing I want to say is, if you come as a couple or if you come with a family member, one of the benefits is that you actually end up with a shared process to fall back on when you get into conflict. So you actually can be like, oh, remember that process that we learned in class, let's try it out. And your conflict starts to turn around. Because you now have a third thing that you can hold on to, not just how you feel with each other. And the last thing I want to say is that the other thing you can access is coaching. So I'm just pasting a link to my website where I do individual coaching. And I will also paste a link to Yuri's website where he does coaching on design. But what we want to provide you with is an opportunity to get a felt experience of what the one-on-one work is like as well. And so you can purchase, in addition to the course, you can purchase 2 coaching sessions for the price of 1, and you'll get to work with both of us for an hour and really go deeper into whatever your situation or conflict is.